In the last section, we spoke about refactoring our single user collection or our user model into separate user, post, and comment collections. And this would make some very common operations that we might want to take in a normal web app a lot more easy to undertake. The one thing I want to say about our refactor is that we already have a post property on our user model. So if we open up our user model right now, we've got this post and it points at the post schema. And we've already got a bunch of tests around this behaving like a subdocument. Now, just because I don't want to lose any of that subdocument stuff that we've been working on, so just for the purposes of this app or this kind of test suite that we're putting together and making sure that you have a good project or a good code base to look at and reference in the future, I don't want to remove the existing subdocument posts that we've got already on here. And so I'm going to say that rather than creating a post collection, we will make specifically a blog post collection. Okay, so we're going to have both posts embedded on the user, and then separately we're also going to have this like blog post concept. So in our app, we're going to have both post and blog post. I know it's a little bit confusing, but again, I want to make sure that you've still got a really good working example of document embedding going on. So we're going to do this as a completely separate and different entity rather than posts. Okay, anyways, a little bit off topic there. Let's get started with a refactor to bring in the idea of both posts, comments, and blog posts, or excuse me, users, blog posts, and comments into our application. So the first thing we'll do is we will make a new file inside of our source directory called blog post. We'll create a blog post model in here, and then we'll also make a new file called comment.js. And then we'll put a comment model inside of here as well. Remember, as soon as we create a model, models correspond to collections inside of our database. So we're going to create actual models here as opposed to our post file that we were working on earlier where we only created a schema. All right, so let's get started inside of our blog post file. We're going to start by first doing some imports at a top. We'll then define a schema, and then we'll assign that schema to our Mongoose object. So we will import Mongoose, or require it. We'll then grab the schema property off of it, like so. And then we'll define our blog post schema. And it's going to be a new schema. So we've seen this a couple times before. So now we need to think about the different properties that this thing might have. I think that a blog post will probably have a title of type string and maybe some content of type string. So let's do a title of string and some content of string as well. Now the last thing that we need to think about is how we are going to somehow connect this blog post to a user. In the diagram that we were just looking at, I said that a blog post would have a reference to look off to a comment, and a user would have a reference to look off to a blog post. Let's take a quick break and then come back and talk a little bit more about exactly how these references work.